Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It is November 11th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and this is going to wrap up the week for us. Um, as you can see, it was another range day today, and it kind of tightened up as the day went along. Here's your overnight highs way up here. Let me get that off there. Way up here. Overnight lows down here, and I talked about this being an early target, and that pretty much held until we broke a little bit lower late in the afternoon, and then when it failed on the breakout, it shot straight up, and that's what you're looking for generally on those failures is for prices to take off like that. So, um, too bad this was late in the afternoon. It didn't. We did actually get a breakout here that shot up fairly decent, but I don't. I think it's a little bearish right there. You need a higher low and on that one, and by the time you get it, you just don't get a setup. So not a lot of trades today, but we're going to go through them real quick, and this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Friday, so been a quick week. It seems like to me. I've had a lot going on, so I've been really busy, but maybe that's the reason. But you had to be a little patient today, and then there's just not a lot of setup. This is hard. Look, it's easy to know when you're in a range like this. When prices are up and down, above and below the EMA like that consistently, and look at the EMA, it's just like a roller coaster. There's a little bit of a downward bias here because we were making lower lows and lower highs. Really, we still made a couple of higher highs here, but overall we're still kind of in a down. This was kind of a downward bias range day. Although you didn't really get a lot of sales off these highs because we couldn't get back up there. And this is another one you might have considered, but you usually need to wait on the higher low, which came here. I didn't mark that one, but I probably should have at least made it green. And this one was tempting too, but this channel is still in play, and there's been no break of it yet. So it's a little dangerous going long right there. And of course your higher lows doesn't come till after 2:30. But let's go through the trades. Let me zoom in here. 7 o'clock came right in here somewhere, and we're just chopping sideways. There's just really no setup until we break out and fail, and you get that little breakout pullback short. It's right below the EMA, a relatively bearish bar, 5 ticks. It's real small too, so you might have taken that trade. I marked it green, but I mean, it kind of set up, and you can see how many times we tried to go higher and couldn't. So eventually, this thing's going to go lower if it can't. You just got to be careful on these. Generally, you want to see it tested a few times, but notice it tested it once, twice, and then it tested it again before it turned down. Generally, you like to see a little space in there, but if you see what's going on there and you understand it, you may take that trade. It's a little aggressive. The failure comes here, but that's just too congested. Not back to the EMA either. We do drop on down. There's another lower high here, but I just think we're too far away from the EMA. I don't like entering there. And of course, we bounce right in the middle of this channel. We just turn up. We still come down and make the new low, but we got a nice little bounce here first. And notice you come up here and you get a close outside, move to a new high, and then a lower high. And that's a nice bearish bar. It is a little congested, but we hadn't come back to the EMA yet. And we tried to go higher 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Just you should get a scalp out of that, and it may turn down and go ahead and make a new low, which it does. So this would have been a fairly nice trade. And if the safer trade was probably to wait on this failure, to me, this really almost looks like one leg down. I still like this trade because we were looking for prices to make a new low here. We've already got a close and a new high here. So this one's real close to being green. Really, your entry is one tick below that bar, but this is your signal bar, so your safety stop goes there. And then we're just kind of chopping sideways. We end up going lower, but I don't see any reason to enter in here. I really don't. There is a break and a new low, and then there's a higher low here, but there's not much room back to the EMA, and you see what would have happened to you. You have to ride that move down out, and then it bounces. We're running up. You get a close outside a new high, and it's just too congested there. I don't have have it drawn, but you can see how congested that is. It's just not safe. In a spot like that, you want to be careful because prices should be going up, but they can't get any higher. There's strong resistance there, but they can't really go any lower either. So you see what happens. It breaks out and traps everybody, and then it heads higher again. And I didn't mark this trade. I like this trade right here, to be honest with you. It's a higher low after this failed break lower. And if you do the measured move, I think we pretty much got one there. You can see we got a perfect measured move. And then we got back in the range and we came back and we closed. So we're probably going to go back and test the high. We may go back and test this original high. And so I like that trade. I didn't mark it though. You could argue for it to be green. It was one I liked in real time. And it did exactly what I expected. I really expected it to at least go here, but your thinking is we may get a measured move or retest those highs, and that's what it did. And then of course you get a true second entry with that big bearish bar right there, that way away from the EMA. I like going short there. And you get a lower high here. This is one that's a little iffy. It's tempting to take that trade, but you can clearly see it looks like we're working down the other side and we're way away from the EMA. I just think it's too risky, even though it drops on down. And of course it does give you this nice bearish bar. Again, that's another one you could, if you want to be real aggressive, maybe you take that because your high or low is no good. And then it just turns down again. And then I did mark this one because it's really not a higher, it's a higher low off of this one, but it made a little lower low than that one. But you notice it closes, and you can see that's the close from yesterday, and it's coming back into play. And we're way away from the EMA, so you may take that. It's aggressive. Wait on the higher low here, and just make sure you got enough room to get out before getting back to the EMA. So you may have to let it break higher and drop a limit order in a tick or two back. And you could have got filled on that, doing that easily. And then there's a reversal here. I did not mark this one because really this looks like a double bottom. It still looks like a leg up. So I was really torn, but it's still congested here. But you could look at this as a double bottom and then a first entry, second entry. And so when it breaks higher there, it's probably going to trap people because I guarantee that big bearish bar when it broke lower. So I treated this one, it's a little aggressive. You need to really know what's kind of going on here. If you're not sure, we did just come off the bottom and look how many times we tested it. So you would think we'd at least go back and test this high, maybe go back to the high, the complete high. And it does confirm this trend line here. So this is a failed second entry short is basically how I'm playing that. And your entry would be one tick above this bar, and this is your signal bar, so your safety stop goes one tick below it. It's a quick, easy move. And they got people trapped. That's what a trap looks like. It rockets up because it hits the stops. It hits all these short stuff. Everybody that got short right here probably looked at that as a second entry short, got short, and it just traps them by a tick, and it turns up, and look how it rockets up. That's a sure sign of a trap. And the shorts are all exiting. And you get your break, move to a new high, and it's tempting to go short here. It looks a lot like this setup right here. It's kind of a repeat of it. It's just such a big bar, and it's really close to the EMA. You might let it break lower and see if it'd come back and give you enough room. I didn't even mark that one because you need to wait on the lower high, and it doesn't come till down here. And then you get a failure here, but again, it looks congested. It's not back to the EMA. It does look a little like a repeat of this right here. If you see this setup right here, it looks a lot like that. So it's kind of a repeat pattern. If you saw that and took it, I wouldn't, I'd probably say, hey, yeah, that's a good read, but I don't like it in real time. And of course, it bounced right there. And the only problem is you got to go long right into that trend line, and it could have turned back down. It doesn't, but it's another one. It's, you could look at that as a triple test. It is a nice signal bar, but I'm just a little afraid of it because this thing has a downward bias to it, and the last few days we've broken out and gone lower, so it's a little risky, but I'll mark it green. And that's pretty much what I saw today. So not a lot of trades, not a clear range. It got a little clear here in the afternoon. This is getting pretty consistent here, and then we just couldn't get back up there. But this was rather consistent across here. So it's not an easy range to trade by any stretch of the means, but there's a few trades in there, and there's some pretty good, there's a few pretty good setups on it. So, but anyway, I hope you had a great week. I'm looking forward to the weekend, so I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll come in for a couple hours tomorrow, put the mid-morning chart up, probably take a trade or two, and then I'm probably going to cut out of here early tomorrow. So anyway, for any of you veterans out there, happy Veterans Day. Thanks for your service. And I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.